actually, this is going to be the third video on the topic of coding, but this is going to be the first video which we're going to take you through a practical tutorial. And so this is basically going to be a walkthrough on how do you get started with, making a web page. Just say something very simple like hello world. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit more than simply getting a page to say hello world, and I'm going to kind of show you how I would begin if I was starting off from scratch. I'm a beginner. I wanted to kind of show you the kind of web pages that I might have up on my browser ready and how I might set up my VS Code situation and how I would use UIKit to get me started. Okay, so I'm sitting right here. I'm in front of my computer, and the first thing I wanted to show you was W3C. So this is a website that's got tutorials, and it's very comprehensive. You can see that you can look up headings, you can look up paragraphs, and it does tend to put the more frequently used HTML elements that you would use up at the top. And so headings are something that are going to be very frequent. Paragraphs are going to be something that you're going to use a lot. Links right here is something that's going to be very frequently used, right? And you can always hit try it for yourself. And let's say I want to change this to google.com. I can go ahead and do this. Google.com, I hit run, and let's see. Actually, it did not take me there. HTTPS, google.com. It might be because it needs to run in a separate. Let's go ahead and do this. There you go. There's my photography website being pulled up right here. Okay. And there is a CSS part of this website, and same thing. If you want to know how to colorize something, add backgrounds and borders. A basic principle that I wanted to give you with HTML and CSS is that HTML is where you put objects and elements. And those objects are things like text. They might be quotations, they might be a list, they might be tables. And CSS is the place where you stylize the things. And so the idea is fundamentally that you want to have just declarative objects on your page, and those things may not change very frequently. And your CSS is separated from the HTML, and it defines on how certain things are going to look. And so you might have definitions on paragraphs being a certain font size, a certain font family, that the links have kind of an orange color, and when you hover over them, they're going to get kind of bold with a black color. There's a variety of different things that you can choose to kind of do. Okay, and then the third website that I would have on your page, and that is UIKit. So they have a documentation tab right here. It's getuikit.com. And they show you right from the beginning, here's how you would set up a very basic template. And they show you an installation that if you want to get up and running very quickly, you could actually just use the references of files that live on external servers. And okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and now take you to the part where, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and start from scratch here. So let's create a folder, and it's going to be called My First Cards. Okay, and you're going to want to have folders to be able to organize things. So, oops. So I hit Control D, and that's a simple way to go ahead and copy and paste. You might have images. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that folder. And you're also going to have a JS file. Okay. And you may decide that you have other pages such as About Us. And you might have another section called Products. And another section called Services. Okay. And another called News. Okay. So one of the things I want to point out to you is I put underscores for kind of assets, and that keeps those files up at the top. And then I have these pages, which are kind of more of a folder structure for my HTML pages. Okay, so now that we set this up, let's go ahead and go to VS Code. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Open. I'm going to hit My First Cards, say Open. Okay. All right. Okay. So you kind of see we've got these files over here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit New File. I'm going to call this index.html. Okay, so that opens this up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Reveal in Finder. Okay, and then I'm going to double click on this file. And it opens up in the browser. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but your browser can play, sort of render files that are not just on the internet, but they can do it right on your desktop or wherever you want this to be stored. Okay, so you have this, and as I told you, there was some kind of like basic get started code blocks that are over on UIKit. And you could have also done this. You could have gone to W3C, gone to Introduction, and you could take this one as well. So every HTML document, they have kind of a similar structure. There's things that tell you kind of what this document, that it's HTML. Everything inside of here is HTML. Everything in here is the body of where you're going to keep HTML elements. And everything in this head right here is going to be sort of metadata, things that don't directly appear on the web page itself. So I'm going to go ahead and call this My First Cards. And this is going to show up in the tab. And I'm going to go ahead and type in an H1 tag. So this just means heading 1. And let's type in My First Cards. Okay, so we're almost done with this very first tutorial on how do you get started, how do you get something to display. And if I haven't messed up too badly, let's go ahead and go to our browser. Let's go to this page. Okay, right here it says My First Cards and My First Cards. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and come back over here. Well, one thing I wanted to point out to you is it's actually not getting the framework and all those files that come with their library of code. And that's because these are referencing a folder that's relative to my folder structure. So it's looking for a JS folder and it's looking for a CSS folder, which I don't have in my folder. So what I can do is copy and paste this. Okay. All right. And so what this is telling me is that this is the UIKit CSS. And UIKit's given me a whole host of functionality that I'm able to go ahead and start using. And this is a JS file, which gives me a lot of functionality. And there. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to come over to this CSS file. I'm going to hit plus. And I'm going to go ahead and hit main.css. You can call this something more specific to your site, and that's totally fine. And I'm going to go ahead and just for example, just to give you a taste for the syntax, I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be main. Let's just call it main. and I'm going to go ahead and say that the text or the font size is going to be, let's go ahead and say 16 pixels. And let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and hit body. I'm going to say the text align. And you kind of see VS Code is giving me a lot of these, it's giving me a lot of very nice helpers as I'm typing along. And I'm going to go ahead and hit margin, and I'm going to hit 0 and auto. Okay. So let's go ahead and come back to our first cards. And you see the font changed, and that does show me that this is a font that's coming from UIKit. If I want to see, okay, I go to my inspector, I hit right-clicked and I hit inspector, and I see that there are all these UIKit kind of class names, and that does show me that I'm successfully getting the UIKit. Just to give you a little bit more of some visible progress, I'm going to go ahead and hit, let's go ahead and say margin 20 pixels, and let's go ahead and say padding equals 20 pixels. Okay, I actually do not know why that's not updating. So what I can do is I can go ahead and click on body. It says margin 0, and that's coming from UIKit. And oh, I know why. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here, and I need to link to the CSS file that I just created. You know, and I just wanted to make the point that it's very common to make mistakes and have to come back and forth with your browser. You know, you just kind of see me. I'm kind of wondering why it's not refreshing, and I'm still not sure if it's going to work. Okay, there you go. So I got it to center. I got to have some buffer margins around this. And so this is tutorial number 1. So I hope you got something from this. You know, I hope you're not thinking that, you know, this is a whole lot of work to get nothing. This is really just the foundation for you to get started. And hopefully I wanted to show you that you don't need to be a rocket science to get started. If you have some references that you just look up things, you have something like VS Code as a tool that will help you along the way. And you just kind of look up references as you go. There's documentation on both of these two websites. If you want to know how to do something that UIKit offers, you got documentation that's listed out here. And if you want to go to find out how to do something in HTML as an element, or if you want to figure out how to stylize that in CSS, you can come over to their CSS framework, CSS reference. So there you have it. Hopefully this was helpful to you to kind of basically, the main thing I want to give you is it's not that hard to get started. So if you stuck this far in the video, I thank you for that, and I'll see you on the next one.